We are in the home stretch of finishing the bookbinding project. In this video, I'm going to show you how I put on the paper for our book cover to add some personality to it. So let's get into this. Welcome to Solitary RPG. So the first thing you need to do when you're going to put the whatever material on the cover of the book is you need to identify the front cover and the back cover just like we did with the text block. So that way when you're working on it, you know what you're working on. And what we do here is we just size it up and we put it in place and we're like, okay, this is the final, spot where the book's going to go, and this is going to be our front cover, this is going to be our back cover. And this is just by trial and error. You're just going to put it in, both ways. There's only two ways it's going to be able to go in, and you're just going to see where it fits the best, where you have the nice spacing for the different top, the bottom, and the front, and how everything's going to look. Now, when I made this, I cut my front just a little bit too short than what I normally do. Normally, I like that eighth of an inch, and it's just a little bit. It's just not perfect. It's not where it should be. One side is just got a little bit shorter than the other side. That was my mistake. It can be adjusted probably during the binding process, but we will figure it out. But one of the things I like about binding my own books is every time I bind a book, I learn a little bit more about the binding process and a little bit more about my patience in making sure that I pay attention to what I'm doing. So what are we going to use to cover the book? So normally I use craft paper, like scrapbooking paper. So I go to the craft stores with my wife and I just buy random sheets of craft paper because they've got a lot of great designs and they have a lot of solid colors. So if you just want like a solid red or blue or green, black, whatever, you can buy solid colors. Or if you want to get prints and designs, you can find all kinds of cool colors. This is Warlock, and this is first edition Warlock. So this is the brown version. There's the new version of Warlock, which is got like a red. That's called, I believe that people refer to it as Warlock Red, but it's their second edition. So this was something I put together, and I tried using a stamp because I wanted to put some kind of a label on the spine so I could see the book on the shelf, but obviously it didn't work out well. But it was a sample because I'm looking at second edition Warlock, so binding this book just became something to mess around with afterwards, and yeah, that's what happened. So anyways, but this is craft paper. You can print something off your computer and use that art as your cover pages. I would recommend that you use a heavy stock card paper, like a 28-pound paper, so that way it can take the moisture from the glue and not wrinkle up on you. Thinner paper, like 20-pound paper, you could take a chance of it kind of wrinkling. I've had that happen to me. It happened when I was making the Warhammer Quest rulebook and I was making those cover pages. I put too much glue down and I put that thin paper on, and it just kind of rolled and became messy. This, even though it's a thicker piece of paper, still has a little bit of texturing to it because it really sank into the cardboard that I was using. So it's got kind of like a little bit of a texture to it. But this is Dungeoneer, I believe is the name. Yeah, Dungeoneering is this game. And again, this was the book I made for it. But you can do this. It works just fine. And yeah, just sometimes your prints, you just need to make sure you maybe size up the print or whatever to make sure you cover the whole cover of the book. So let's take a look at my scrapbooking paper and figure out what we're going to do with this. Halloween is usually the best time of the year to buy scrapbooking paper if you're looking for more I don't know, fantasy style or darker style paper because they'll put out their Halloween prints. And this is something I picked up from Michael's. It's got all kinds of prints in it. Like this is a cool print. You got the moon, which is kind of cool. You got, you just got some random stuff. And this is pretty much my go-to for my book covers. This could be a really nice cover for maybe a little bit of a different type of a book, not necessarily what we're working on. But you got some cool prints, and there's just a variety of different ones in this particular book. I really like this one. It kind of has an adventure feel or vibe to it. It's not a dungeon vibe, but, out adventuring. This is probably what we're going to use because this is just a really nice design. It's like a marbling effect, and I really like it. The mushrooms are kind of cool. That would be fitting for a dungeon book. And that one's not so much. These are like strip pieces. I'm thinking I need to do a Silence of the Lamb book because of all these moths. So anyways, yeah. And then you got this basic design here, which is just like red wood, which is neat. But what you can do with these is you can cut, if you don't like the flowers, you can probably cut it here. And then you would have this as the majority of your design. But I think I'm going to go with that red marble because I just like it. It's just a nice pattern. And I bought a couple of these when it was Halloween. But you're going to need one page per cover. So you need the front and the back of your book. So we got those pulled out. And again, this was something I picked up from Michael's. I forget how much they were. They weren't terribly expensive. And I've pulled a lot of the pages out of here and used them for other books. If you really go hunting for scrapbook pages, you can find a variety of different ones. I found this. It was at one of the shops my wife likes to go to, and this was just a really cool print. Screams like old school fantasy, just, knight in shining armor, dragons, blah, blah, blah. That was kind of cool. You can find a lot of just random prints like this. This, again, Halloween time is I'll go out and buy a bunch of paper because that is when you can find the cool stuff. Just neat. Like this is a really cool piece here that I think would make a great book cover. So that's kind of cool. And, I always buy two, just because you got to do a front and a back of your book. The spider webs is all right, but, just something different. Some spider webs. Woo! Ghosts. But I bought this one primarily for the spider webs. And, that's neat, but that's even cooler. Just the black and white stripes. So, yeah, and then there's leather. My wife bought that for me one time. This is a neat pattern because it's kind of like an old rusted car look. So, those are kind of neat. Music notes. Like, I'm a bass player, so... the bass clef and all that kind of stuff was kind of cool. I don't know why. I just bought it because I liked it. You can find all kinds of wood patterns, brick patterns, just stuff like that. So whatever you like, use. It's yours. Like this map is just really neat. I just thought that was like a cool map that I could use. And the globe, another neat thing that would make a great book cover. More bricks. So whatever you find, just open your eyes, look around at the craft stores, and you will find all kinds of neat scrapbooking paper that will make good covers because it's thicker paper, takes the moisture from the glues better because this is designed for stuff to be glued on. So it takes it better and it works out good. So let's get into work. So we got our book and we've identified that this is going to be the front. So again, we're going to take our pencil. And we're going to write front, top, and we're going to do that on the inside as well. But I'm going to go down a little bit on the inside for a reason. The reason we need to do it on the inside and the outside is when we start gluing down our paper, our book's going to be flipped around. So the front will be here and the back will be here. So it's going to be opposite. And that's important, especially if you're doing anything with any kind of print. Just need to make sure you're remembering your front and your top and your back and all that good stuff. So that way when you put your print down, you just remember that's the front and that's the back. And then when we start to glue the text block in, we need to do the same thing. We just need to remember what our front was, especially like the pattern we're using doesn't have any real indicator of a design to say this is the front of the book. So that way when we go to start gluing everything together, we just know where everything is. And the reason I put this down further is we're going to fold over the paper, and we don't want to lose that. So just make sure you drop it down. So how do we do this? This is a really simple process for gluing your covers on. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take like a Sharpie marker or any type of permanent marker, and we're going to blacken in the line going along the tape. And I'm just going to use a Sharpie marker, and the reason for that is if we happen to not make complete contact with the tape, the black ink from the marker will hide any of the cardboard that might peek through. And what you're seeing here is this piece of tape isn't perfectly straight. So when I put my piece of paper up against it, some of that cardboard is going to show through. So what we're doing is we're just shadowing that, so that way when we glue it all down, it doesn't show. So we're hiding any potential mistakes. Now we could cut this straight with a razor blade, but like I said, this tape is super strong and it might damage the cardboard when we start pulling it up. You can try that, but I just cover it. It's just simpler this way. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to take Elmer's glue. We're going to glue that down. And then we're just going to take our paper and we're going to butt it up to the tape as best we can. And we're just going to press it. And that's it. We're just going to glue these two covers down. And that will be the end of it. Now, you can really see that mistake I made. Let me zoom in on that. You can really see that black sticking through right here, but this is the back cover, so we'll be okay. But you don't want to glue on top of that. You could glue on top of the tape if you wanted to, but you'll have a bump and it just doesn't work as good. You just want to glue it flush with the tape because that way it doesn't peel up and it will actually help keep this glued down and everything will just makes a better looking book. And that little mistake isn't that big of a deal. So I'm just going to go glue these down. I'm not going to show it on camera. And once I get that done, I'll come back and we'll get back to work on this. Okay, so this is where we're at right now. So I've glued the craft paper on both ends of my book. There you can see the back side. It's a little warped because of the glue. And if I was not making a video, I might let this sit in my book press overnight to really just let it dry, let it flatten. But, you know, we're making a video, so we're going to speed things up a little bit because I've got a lot of other projects I want to work on. Here you can see that mistake that I made, and let me zoom in on that again. Like there's just a little bit of black, and that's why we did that marker there so that it kind of blended in and it wasn't as obvious. If this was the cardboard and you would have seen that, it would have stood out like a sore thumb. It might cause you to get frustrated because it would just always show. But by painting it, you know, taking the marker, blacking, you know, just making a black line right there, covers up that mistake quite nicely. And that's also the back of the book, so we're good. So what we need to do now is just trim our paper. So what I do is I've just got a standard ruler that's 1 inch wide, and I just cut it to that measurement. So I put it down, and I trim off all of the excess paper, so that way we can start getting it ready to fold over. So let me just get all this cut. I'm sure it is fascinating video to watch me cut paper. Now here you can see like bookbinding tape caused it to push out a little bit. So just get it up there nice and tight. Get yourself a cut. You'll be good. These don't have to be perfect because we're going to be folding this paper over. Then it's all going to get covered up with the end pages of our text block. So if it's a little bit off, it's okay. We're going to save these scrap pieces for like the hinges and other things. You know, we're just going to save the paper. I try not to be wasteful when it comes to all the paper that I purchase for my bookbinding, because some of this craft paper can get expensive. And yeah, we're just getting it all cut. We're going to get it all trimmed. And then once we're done, we're going to get it prepared to start folding the pages over. So these little pieces, I'm going to go ahead and throw away. Like, I can't use these for anything. But these two bigger pieces, I will save for another day. So the next thing we need to do is we need to cut the corners so that way we can fold our paper over. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to fold over the cover material to get a finished edge like this. And what this is going to offer us is a finished edge along the covers, and also give us some really nice corners for our book. Now you can see I messed up with a little bit of the paper, kind of pushing down on it, it turned it white. So what you can do when that happens is you just take your black Sharpie marker and you just kind of touch the white. This paper will have some issues. If you are too rough with it, you can scratch off some of the ink, especially around where you cut it. So you just hit it with your black marker. It's not that big of a deal. What I want to do is show you how we created this. And when I tried it the first time, there's so much going on in explaining this that I felt it would be best to kind of show you a finished one while I talk about it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our box cutter or knife, whatever you're using, and we need to cut these corners. But we're not going to cut them straight. If you cut them straight and you go to fold everything over, first of all, your corner is going to be exposed and you're going to see cardboard there because that's just how it would work. So what we're going to do is there's no measuring going to take place. I do this just by experience, but you're going to want to cut at a slight angle like I did here. You can kind of see where I cut at an angle. It's going right along here. That's my cut right there. It's just at a slight angle. So what you can do is you're going to come out from the corner. And the reason we're coming out from the corner is we're going to do the top and the bottom first. And when we fold this paper over, because we're going to be coming out a little bit, it's going to leave a little bit of a overhang. And then we're going to press that down with our thumb. And that's going to create our corners. And that's what's going to make these nice corners like this that are all covered up and there's no cardboard showing through. Now, my corners aren't perfect, but they're better than anything else that I could possibly do. So it's a pretty simple process. Just go out, I don't know, 1/16 of an inch. If you want to go a little bit further, you can. Let's try going a little bit further so you can really see what's going on. And then you just make a slight cut. You're not going straight. You're just going at a slight angle. And then you come to the other side and you repeat the process. And then you take this piece of paper off. And that's all you're doing. For me, this is just something that by making books, I've gotten used to kind of where I like to go with doing this. You could do like precise measurements and get real particular about it, but you know, these are handcrafted books. Think about this as one of your fantasy characters is making a book for scraps of paper that they found while journeying, and they made their own book. So have some fun with it. Anyways, we put some glue down. We rub it in with our fingers. We want to push up a lot of that glue onto the edge of that cardboard for the cover to make sure it sticks down really good, because that's going to take a brunt of abuse. Make sure it's all covered. Wipe your fingers off. I'm going to fold that in half so I can use that again. And now what we're going to do is we're going to fold this over. So this is what I do. I put it down on a solid surface to create that first fold, just like that. Then I'm going to take my bone folder, which isn't really made of bone, and I'm going to rub it down, and then I'm going to go the rest of the way using my bone folder, going from the center and working my way out, going from the center and working my way out. So now we've got a nice good fold there, and you can see how there's a little bit of a lip right there. We're going to take this and we're going to press that down. And this way, when I do this side, this is going to fold over kind of like wrapping paper, I guess, like wrapping a present or something. And it's just going to cover that. Like all that's going to get covered up nice and neat, nice and tidy. But the first thing we're doing is we're just doing the top and the bottom. So let's do the other side. We're going to put down some glue. We're going to rub in the glue, pushing it into that cardboard. I feel like Mr. Rogers. Welcome to my neighborhood. Pushing it into that cardboard, really getting it in there because that's going to take the most abuse, is that edge. And then we're just going to use our table. We're just going to fold it, pushing pressure to get that first fold. Like this is good and folded. We can take our bone folder and rub it down and then push it down, starting from the center, working our way out. There we go. I got a little bit of glue on the paper. You can rub that off with your wet cloth. And then we're just going to crease down that edge right there. See how this one ripped a little bit on me. That one's down good. I'm just going to put a black dot there to cover that up so when I fold it over, that little white from the rip won't show. But this one came out really good. Look at that. That's what you're after. So this way when we fold this side over, that's just going to fold over. And that's going to create a nice, cool, clean corner. And that's what we're after. So I'm going to put this in the book press. I'm going to let it sit for about 30 minutes. And then I'm going to come back. We'll do this final edge. And that will finish the book. And then the whole thing's going to sit in the book press overnight. So I'll be back. Okay, so all we have left now is this last end piece. So we're just going to get a piece of scrap paper. And we're just going to put down some more glue. And again, we're just going to kind of rub it in, making sure we get it really good up towards the cardboard. So that way it gets a good bond. And once we got that all done, just going to simply press down on it. Get that first fold in place. Take our bone folder, give it a good crease, and then fold it over. Again, we'll start from the center, and we kind of work our way out. Press it down real good, and then just check your corners. Make sure they're good and everything's down, everything looking good. So we got some really good corners on this. So that would finish the cover. Everything is done. That's the back, that's the front. So now that everything's done, we'll put this back in the book press. We'll let it sit overnight, and then tomorrow I'll come back and I'll show you the finished product. All right, so now it's the next day, and this is the finished product. So the book cover turned out really nice, and I am quite pleased with it. But I will say I made one adjustment to everything. So earlier in the video I told you I wasn't happy with how far the text block stuck out, and I didn't quite have a really good lip on the front. Well, I was looking at my text block and I noticed I still had a lot of white edging on the pages. So I put this in my book cutter and I cut just a small amount of paper off the very edge of my text block so that would fit nicer in my book cover, because it was, even though I'm trying to live with my mistakes and everything in life, unfortunately, it was just bugging me too much. It was causing me a little bit of like frustration. I was thinking about just pitching the whole cover and starting over again, but I really liked how the cover turned out. So I took a chance in cutting the text block because I could always reprint this if I had to. I wouldn't recommend that if you don't have a good paper cutter though. I have a nice sharp guillotine style paper cutter, so I could cut just a fraction of paper off just to trim it up just a little bit so that when I put it into my book cover, it turned out real nice. So now you can see I've got a nice edge at the front, on the top, and on the bottom. The cover turned out nice. So this is our finished book cover. As you can see, it's looking really nice. I've got some really good sharp corners. So the next video is probably going to be the most important video. The next video is where everything can go sideways. We're going to finish it. Just like anything else in life, the finishing is the nerve-wracking part. But we're going to glue the text block into the book. And this is where we got to make sure everything's good and straight. Everything's where we want it. And that's going to be the end. Then after we glue the text block in, we'll have our book. So I will get to work on that next video. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. Bye.